See, what they got 1-207 and 1-103 for is really to protect themselves, not you. Because they can't make a foreign law and then not give you the ability to get back to the law. Because then they're absolute criminals. You have a right to literally walk up to them and put a bullet in their head. And the international community has the obligation to back you up. But since you've been colored people, you don't have a right to do nothing. Because you're their property. And then if you're going to use this UCC as the law, you just denied the Constitution, which is what they're trying to get you to do. That's why he says what? Fourth paragraph. I love my people, and I desire their unity. Unity is also on the Constitution, ain't it? And mind, he included himself, back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. What is our problem? We've been unconstitutional. That's why color of law has been governing here, because we've been colored people. But don't you get in the questionnaire, elementary lesson for babies. You're not Negro, black, and colored. We agreed, didn't we? Then turn right around and start supporting color of law. No contest, no contemporary. We didn't contend nothing, no objections. Let them call us called operate in color. And back to a principle where the prophet has said, if you can't convince your brother and sister that he's not Negro, black, and colored, there's no need to tell him anything else. What does that mean? Because his fate is sealed. So that means you must first remedy the foundation of their whole concepts. If you don't remedy that, all the other things that you're trying to reason with them with, it doesn't wash. And it doesn't mean that they're insincere. It means they don't have the knowledge. And for a lack of knowledge, they're being destroyed by the day. So it is the duty of those who have the knowledge to give it to their brothers and sisters. It don't belong to us. We're just channels. It is our responsibility to aid our brothers and sisters and take every opportunity that we can on every front to do what we can to the crude ability that we have to teach them and not go to the grave with this information. You want to raise them up, you want to reason, you know what's going to make the unity? This is what's going to make the unity. This is the prophecy. This is the mathematics. Pain. However, it is your duty to your mothers and your fathers to tell it like it is. Knowing that some of us are going to be cast into prison, knowing that some of us are going to catch opposition, is to tell it. Because that's the weapon. When their mind changes, the atmosphere literally will change. The earth is sick because we're sick. You know that religion has taught them that there's no relationship, but those who know the science of Islam know that we're connected to the earth, that our sickness reflects in the earth, and she reflects back at us. And when our minds change, the literal atmosphere changes, and he can no longer practice color of law if we stop being colored people. So if we share the information, you want the unity? Keep on doing what you're doing. You know, it's sort of like not getting caught up in the fiction of, you know, you plant a seed and you get caught up in, you know, let's go over here and plant the seed. Excuse me for that. Put a couple seeds in the ground here. And pour some water on it. Boy, didn't I do that? Then 5 minutes later, you're going like this. Man, told you them seeds wasn't no good. I don't see nothing happening. Man, oh, that's not your job. Your job is to prepare that earth, plant the seed, and go about your business. Let the moon and the sun do their job. Because the mind is an earth. And a thought is a seed. Your job is to plant it and leave it alone. And don't even judge it. But be sure that you plant. And be satisfied. Because there is nothing that goes unrecorded. And you already know this thing is plains. That the future, the past, and the present are simply plains. And that time is an instrument we use for the record. But it really don't exist. You were raising your hand.
What will the Caucasian do? Where will the Caucasian go when we fully come into our standing here in New Mexico?
There's two things. In order to save him, we must absorb him. He knows that and we know it. We deny it. This has been part of the social problem, is that we have denied him. See, we denied her, which is the European, or the daughters, because of our own experiments on ourselves. And because of our not wanting to acknowledge the mix that we made in Patagonia of the animal and the human seed with flowers in the grand experiments in South America, South of Mexico, and in the Yucatan area when we had later abandoned the central part because of the diseases of syphilis, gonorrhea, tuberculosis that came about from those great experiments. Then we took the European sons because they were more degenerate and put them on the Isle of Patmos, which we call England or Albion, and put them behind the rock, gathering up the blue eyes that's called in the Quran, and put them there. But we kept the daughters and we put them in our harems. And it's they who rebelled and taught their sons, and that's what the American Revolution is. Now, yes, the DAR. That's why when you see, if anybody travels outside the land and they comes into the United States, and you'll get a citizenship manual, and it's called the DAR manual. And they will show you the seal with the bird, but they will not display the Great Seal. And they will tell you they didn't have the space for it. But the DAR is not going to put that in there. Why? Because that's the sovereign, that's you, who are asleep, because they must live off of you. They're not angry, and they're not, like our people saying, well, white people don't like us. That's bull. That's put out there, how you say, you know how like when you put a plumbing in, and you put a hot water tank in, you got a pressure release valve? That's what civil rights arguments is for. That's what racism is for, to let you get your stuff off, and then go back to niggerism next week, while they steal your birthright. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, let me finish this and I'll clarify this. I'm going to tell you what's happening and what's going to happen. All Europeans are not going home. Some of them will be here and will be teaching you government. Some of them, because a lot of them are good farmers, because they had made that part of the culture. Because originally when we made the servant caste, we made them as servants or as slaves, and we became slaves. But that was our karmic debt. You understand? They know that we don't know that history. So most Moors look at the history, man, and Europeans put us in slavery, man, and they was rotten. Well, we had them as slaves first. And all we is getting it back. Because debts must be paid. Because the law of compensation is rooted in nature, not in your opinions. You understand what I'm saying? So we must learn to love instead of hate. That's number one. You understand? Now, many of those who are going back are going because they will not hold up isonomy or the Constitution law. Because government is an abstract. It is not a building near the Potomac, etc., or down City Hall. That's not the government. Government is you. But we lost that because we started taking the physical things and thinking that constitutes government. What constitutes government is principles and the maintenance of those things. It's an abstract, but it must be part of the hearts and the minds of the people. It must be taught to them the same way that religions have been taught to them. If you lose that, you lose your government. It is divine. You understand what I'm saying to you? So many European sons going back, we're going to absorb. And when you see, contrary to a lot of things that people try to say to the contrary, you see Asiatics with European sons and Asiatic women with European sons and Asiatic men with European women. Do not take offense. Do not take offense. Believe me, that's the solving. That's what's going to kill the dragon. And we are dragon slayers. This is the reason why the code of Kaiklos, which is the Ku Klux Klan, is not, and also the Civil War. That's why it took place, to stop the Moabite sons from marrying into pale-skinned nations of Europe, because the Moabite strain is so powerful that it kills any genetic strain below it, because it's the mother and the father of civilization. However, because we're going into the photon belt, and the photon belt means shift in galaxies. Just like you got a clock, just like, clock we got on and we're measuring that by the sun. You used to have a clock with a double dial measured by the sun and the moon. Then you got the sun, the moon, the planets. See, but then it becomes too complicated, don't it? But governors don't forget that. They just let you forget that. Because everybody operates by the clock. You understand what I'm saying? So they know that as we're moving into the photon belt, the atmosphere is changing, means the earth is quickening. So what's going to happen is that the sun operates in this atmosphere or in this solar system along with Saturn just like an immune system. Like your white corpuscles operate in your blood system, and it starts killing things that are out of order. Saturn sends back all your checks that you wrote. You wrote some checks? Them rings of Saturn contrary, it's going to send them back. You're going to cash them. Saturn is the devil to those who don't know how this universe works. But it's not negative in the concept that you think it is. Do you understand? Really. And as we move into the photon belt, the sun intensifies. And you got the apogee and epigee of the earth as it moves, long points and short points to the sun, and also dealing with the seasons. Well, guess what? The vibrational points of the sun and the earth is intensifying. It's quickening. Anything that's mutant or outside of nature is going to burn up. You know how comets burn up? So the great experiment has been done, but it's not complete. And so in order to save our sons, we must absorb them. And we must also acknowledge that they are our sons. Just because they've been ruling and misusing that rulership, we're pissed off and call them aliens. No, it's true. It's the truth. Which caused her womb to be sad. And out of her sad womb, she has produced insane sons, which is what's wrong with him. You understand? So Constitution not only means that divine document, Constitution means literally make up. Who made you? Who made you? Who's Allah? What is Father? What is derived from? Father is derived from Pata. Pata is derived from paternity. Paternity is derived from nativity or the birth of a woman. So the father is still the mother because he's subordinate. But you haven't recognized that, have you? All right. So now you know who Allah is. And she's unhappy. And by the very nature of her womb, she will give birth to the solving. It operates in nature. It has nothing to do with your belief systems. But once you understand, then you understand why sons of destiny are born cyclically to fix this problem. You call them prophets. Once you understand those rules, they don't change. What do the prophets do? Change the vibrational static points to active points amongst the people to get them thinking again. When they think again, the atmosphere changes, for they are gods and makers of their own condition. But I'm just telling you how it works. So therefore, teach the people. They will solve the problem. That's why the Drew Ali said to the people, he says, this is your Moorish movement. The Negro problem is your problem. Even some of the Europeans are helping me. Why aren't you? But he also said, we do not seek to marry into the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Why? Because we're out of order. You understand? You got to solve your problem first, because it continues, because the great sin exists with us. That's why nobody want to marry, what, black people or niggers, because you bring that corruption and that baggage into the family, and you corrupt them. And you sit around and feel sorry for yourself, because the womb is corrupted. Why? Because what you think affects the gene pool. Because just like any other science, that womb is a school. And however that woman thinks, she's teaching that child is already educated when it comes, whether it's negative or positive. However, they also don't want you to know that, so that you don't use it positively and solve this problem. You tired of this, sisters? Tired of this crap we go through? When you all decide you're tired of this, S-H-I-T, it'll start ending. And our sons, you know, we talk stuff, and a lot of men get credit for a lot of crap. All we doing is carrying out our mother's orders. Don't think it's ever different than that. It may appear that every male that's born here is going to serve his mother, his sister, girlfriend, wife, some woman. We're here to serve. Sometimes we don't like it. Sometimes we get pissed off. But man, everything a man does, no man can have $1 million in his pocket. We can go play basketball, you understand what I'm saying? Drink a soda and sleep on a sofa and be satisfied. Woman come in, we got to go get silk curtains and everything. Got to go get the stuff, clap your hands, and drapes got to open up like that. Got to get silk blankets and all that stuff. But other than that, we don't care. Not that we don't care, but we're mechanical. But women inspire men to civilization.
That's right.
It's serious. I mean, we ain't going to, you know, all men ain't going to admit that to you. But that's the real deal. You know, we come out the womb, spend the rest of our life trying to get back in. You know, it's true. Now, what you got to do is don't misuse that knowledge, but use it wisely. Because men operate on principles of loyalty. When man feels that loyalty is not around him, he falls apart. Men stay with women on that principle, and men leave women for the lack of that principle. That's what he operates on. In his nature, not what he says. He can say all kind of crap. But really, that's the key. Now, you're the key to civilization. And it's been in your hands all the time. But we followed after the gods of Europe that we knew nothing of, these idol gods. That's what got us messed up. You must shed them. But nobody can make you shed them because they're in your mind. So you got to have another body of information that releases you from those chains. But again, you got to want it. But the European is also sealed, too, because he has no choice. Because it's also in his gene pool. He's going to have to tell you. You know what I'm saying? He can't, it's no escape. He's going to have to tell you the truth. But it's up to you to really pay attention to what you think you're hearing and what you are hearing. And just like I go into the, like you say, dictionary, law dictionary to show you stuff that's right there, what part of the rulership of the Romans is to boast? You understand what I'm saying? So he boasts of his exploits. So if he do something to you, he may code it, but he's going to write it down. This is the reason why they spent so much energy and time in the period after the Civil War to force illiteracy amongst us so that you wouldn't read. And they give you idol gods so you wouldn't feel it's necessary to read. See, because you just believe stuff. You know, he killed you, baby. Just believe it's all right. Right, wife. Oh, it's all right with the Lord. Oh, I'm a man of God, God-fearing. And they say all that stuff, and we start carrying that stuff along too. You know what I mean? They just live off of us. But once you know the truth of divinity and spirituality, you know all that is fiction. However, you know the common people don't know that. They associate religion with Allah. Allah has no associates. Can't be bought or sold, and it ain't like some, slot machine where every week it costs nickels, costs money to make them work, and then the prayers don't work after Sunday and all that kind of crap. You understand what I'm saying? He's not subordinate to money, which is subordinate to man. Isn't it funny how all these gods are always broke that people introduce them to? I mean, serious. And the people never question it because they don't know that sorcerers are operating. They don't know that most of these people are sorcerers. And if you really said that, they would want to lynch you too, just like they did Jesus. And I'll just tell you this lesson. You know his name was Joshua. But remember when Jesus came amongst his own and they received him not? You know what the truth is? Organized religionists and the political state in conspiracy plotted his assassination and carried it out in partnership, in secret meetings, in their lodges, and then told the world, there's a separation of church and state. And you believe them. The devil did it, and we got to raise the money to fight the devil and to do God's work. And you believe them. And you've been doing it ever since. This is back to a lesson to fight with, brother. Do you understand where I come from? So the point of you got to turn, you got to give the people such information that they'd be willing on their own to turn religion back to the Romans, not hate it, but turn it back to them and go back to those principles of their ancient mothers and fathers, which is spirituality, cosmology, based on that which is. Do you understand? And that doesn't change. When you stop seeing universality in principles, start looking for the lie. These are standards that every being on the planet must have. Because these are keys to civilization. They must be known. They must be taught. So for you to teach them, you must free yourself of idol God worship. You must know the difference between custom and truth. This is the reason why when you really study, now you look at your nationality cards. What is one of the things that Noble Drawley did with the nationality card most people don't even pay attention to? Say, we honor all divine prophets. What? Confucius? Name them. Jesus? What? Buddha? Muhammad? And Ali. What is he telling you? Now that's your first key that you get when you nationalize. It means go study them. Because your sciences are hidden within all of them. You're reversing the polarity. But you're not taking the ritual, you're stripping the ritual and taking the spiritual foundation and principles, the unification of the nation. And so Muslims, Moors have always been known to do what when they ruled? To even help Christians build churches. Tolerance. That's why Moors have been known for that. Why? Because we know that religion is a solace system that was set up by the Moors to keep harmony and peace in society for the common people. Where you would rule yourself and not act like animals. However, you're to be taught the liberal arts and things of science so that you know that when you become a child, when you become an adult, you put away the childish concepts and deal with science. Now Adam ain't no longer Adam sitting there with, a leaf over his wiener diener, and you know that Adam is atom. And you start dealing with the structure of all matter. And you know that Eve is evolution. But that's for adults. But when they're a child, you get them little building blocks, don't you? And that's all. That's all it ever has been. But the leaders ain't going to tell because they'll lose their, what, funding, won't they? Huh? They'll lose their lunch money. Creator. They're ordained by the state. And they're partners with them. But of course, we don't want to deal with reality, do we? Huh? So when people begin to really study government principles, study issues of jurisprudence, etc., they begin to find out certain principles, just like when they go down and get a marriage license, right? Then they study to find out comes under Article 39 of police powers. Has nothing to do with divine, nothing between you and God. And all this stuff. No, it has to do with the corporation state, which makes your children, your offspring, the property of the state. And then they take that birth certificate and then auction it off. What, they send all the birth certificates? What state, what part of that Pennsylvania where they send all the birth certificates? No, across the country. We talking about just... No, somewhere. I apologize for getting, because it slipped my mind. But they send all the birth certificates there, and they're marketed. They're stock. They're stock certificates.
Let me change the tape 1 second.